up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we will take a look at our very first digital figure. Now, this is another subline coming out from McFarlane. But as everybody knows, basically, you can take DC Multiverse, Page Punchers, and they are all basically the same line, which actually gives you a very mix and match ability with your collection to swap out figures or use different figures for different situations. Now, I am going to go kind of into a long stretch here because I am finishing up a huge project that I'm working on. So that kind of takes a lot of my attention because, of course, in the last weeks, it's really when, you get down to crunch time. Plus, doing everything else that I have on my plate and wanting to get these reviews out. I do have everything set up, ready to do basically at least a review a day so that we could get into all of the figures that have actually come in. But I thought that it would be very fitting to go ahead and start off with Batman from this first digital wave from McFarlane. So coming up soon, we will take a look at the Hal Jordan and also the Aquaman, as well as the Justice League America wave with the Plastic Man collector-build figure. All are going to be coming up here on the channel. Now, I gotta be honest with you, didn't expect much from this release because, of course, it is just another repaint of the Rebirth suit that we have seen before. Now, I did notice, even from the promo images, that it did have a different alternate head sculpt. And of course, you get the unmasked head, which is one of the main reasons I picked this up. Now, interestingly enough, everything did work out for the better because I did pick up 3 sets of these. I have another one coming in from GameStop, and I will put all of the alternate heads to good use. And this is another reason why I told everybody I didn't really like alternate heads, because I have a sickness, and that sickness is that I must display all heads that are released with each figure. So you got me in trouble with this Batman and also with the Aquaman from this set. But in the end, I am actually happy to fulfill my collecting habit because it does give me some pleasure. Now, this guy does look pretty great in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now, first, he doesn't come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. He actually comes with our very first McFarlane digital stand. I actually really like the aqua blue that is used in the packaging with these figures. If you take a look at the backing board, you have something different from McFarlane to break up the different packaging. But in the end, as I stated before, this can be considered all DC Multiverse. But I do think this packaging actually sticks out and breaks up the monotony of the old DC Multiverse packaging. So pretty cool. We'll actually separate this one from the rest of my stands. Now, of course, he does come with your data file card. On the front, you actually have an image from Rebirth, which really represents this suit well. Now, traditionally, the Rebirth costume is a more darker black with a purple color underneath the cape, with the trim of bright yellow on the belt and around the chest emblem. So it is very interesting to see a more blue color scheme based off of that costume. Now, on the back, you do have some information. Pretty sweet. We'll hold on to that. Now, you do get also your digital figure. Now, a lot of people are wondering, is this the extra $5 that we were charged? And I would have to say probably yes. But I take it more like if this is like when McFarlane gives you a comic book he charges a little bit more. So he's giving you a digital figure. On the back, you do have instructions. And although people can say, well, this is trash to me, like, what do I want this for? I think the same thing pretty much about the new comics. Like, I don't really read them, no interest in them, basically. So it's the same thing. You're paying for something that probably isn't your thing, but these may be worth something later on, but the future will actually tell. So we'll just hold on to that. Now, he does come with some accessories, some pretty sweet alternate hands. Of course, usually I like to review the figure with double fist, but you also get a grasping hand and one of my favorite hands from McFarlane, which is this like open splayed hand, which gives you a lot of options in figure photography and when you pose and display the figure. So we'll hold on to those. Now you do get the same grapnel gun that you got with the original Rebirth Batman, except that this one is in a pretty prestigious gold paint. Really nice, really shiny, pretty cool to add it to the Batman arsenal. And of course, you get the golden Batarang to match. This is the same as we received with the Rebirth figure, but once again, pretty cool to add to the weapons. And of course, you do get the unmasked head. Now, I did think a lot about what I actually wanted to do with this head. And since I actually have another one of these coming, I'm actually going to have one version with the blue costume with the unmasked head, and I actually have something planned out for this extra head. We'll take a look at that later on. Now, we won't go too much into articulation, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at this figure. Now, I gotta be honest, at first I thought, this is just a throwaway figure, but the more I posed him, the more I had fun with him and moved him around, this is a really nice repaint, especially giving us this alternate Batman head, which has like a sort of a little bit of I want to say angrier head sculpt. I don't know what it is, but it just gives off a little bit more of a grittier vibe than the original Rebirth head that we received. Now we will compare those next to each other, but just taking a quick look at this one, I really love the blue, which is more almost a purplish color. Now you don't get a two-tone underneath the cape as you did with the original Rebirth, but you do have that gold trim around the chest emblem and around the utility belt. But besides that, it is basically just the same exact figure. The big difference being that head sculpt, as I said before, just gives a completely different vibe to the original release. Now you can have fun with this guy. You can pop out the hand and add that splayed hand, which is one of my favorite hands that actually comes from McFarlane because you could get the grapnel gun and pose them. You could get the Batarang and pose them. And this emotion hand just really opens up the possibilities of posing with this Batman figure. Pretty cool. Just one of the hands I I really enjoy when we get a gesturing hand from McFarlane. It just opens up the possibilities with how you do figure photography and display of the figure. But it is a pretty fun figure to move around and to pose. And like I said, that head sculpt really makes a big difference. Now, I do want to bring out the original Rebirth figure. I always thought that the head sculpt was kind of like a pea head, like it's really small. And I just never understood why they made it that size. Now, I actually really like that head sculpt. The only thing holding it back was that it was really small. Now, another thing you want to look at is the scaling of this new blue version of Rebirth, because since it does have a larger head, if you compare these two next to each other, you can see the head is larger, which gives it a very slight millimeter of height. And I just put them next to some random figures. You could put them next to the dirtied up Kyle Rayner. You can also put him up next to that psycho gimp head Joker. And you can put him up next to the Red Robin for some different scaling, just to show that you are not necessarily pigeonholed into one scale. You can actually move it around. Now, I did want to also add in Talon here because Talon is a taller character, and this version of Batman is not going to be your tallest Bruce Wayne, but he does look pretty good in figure photography with the Talon figures. So, all in all, it's a very pleasing figure. Now, another figure I wanted to bring out was actually Speeding Bullets. And the reason I wanted to bring him out is because if you notice, he's a bulkier, a bigger size buck than the Rebirth buck, but the larger head makes a big difference. You can actually put this Rebirth head on this Speeding Bullet's body, and it does give you a sort of cool, uh, just a mock up of what you can actually do with a larger head sculpt because that old rebirth head was just so tiny that I remember I eventually bought an extra rebirth figure and I wanted the head to make my custom Jim Gordon as Batman, whereas that little pea head actually fit this leaner body a lot better. Now, what did I end up doing with the extra head? Well, what ended up happening is that I always thought it was no big deal to use this extra Jim Gordon head on this extra Rebirth Batman body. And it just never sat well with me. It just doesn't give like a real Bruce Wayne as Batman look. So I've had this on here for months and it just still never grew on me. Not a big fan of it, even though this head is larger and it fits a lot better with this rebirth body than it actually did on the Jim Gordon figure. So finally, what I did decide to do was actually take this head off, and this is where I will actually be placing my extra unmasked rebirth Batman head, and this actually works awesome. It just worked for me and looks a lot better on this, you know, black and gray costume design. Although I will have an alternate version, you know me, I am sick and I don't mind having two unmasked versions of Bruce Wayne. Now, another thing I thought was it's actually pretty strange that when I saw the promo pics for this unmasked head, I mean, he looked either really Hispanic or a little bit Asian, which I'm actually fine with, but I did remember in the back of my head to wait until you get it in hand. A lot of the times, the McFarlane pictures do not do the figures or the sculpts any justice. Really enjoying this Bruce Wayne head. It just has its own feel to it. And I bet you this will not be the only unmasked comic version of Bruce Wayne that we get. I went ahead and added this sort of cowl that's removed. And as you can see, it looks really good with this figure. So everything worked out in the end. I have an extra body to use that unmasked Bruce Wayne head. I'm really digging this version of Rebirth Batman with the alternate head sculpt. It just gives him a darker feel for some reason than the original Rebirth head. And now another thing we have to look forward to is I should be able, if I, put my nose to the grindstone, I should be able to start pumping out all the reviews that I have set up in this next coming week. And I hope you guys are interested to check it out. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one. Music
call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.